Happy Wednesday. Happy Mind Your Wednesday. So listen, I'm going to tell you about this crush I had on a guy when I was back in high school. He was the most beautiful person I think I've ever seen in my life. We lived in the same town, but went to different high schools, and he was a few years older than me. But he was just gorgeous to me. Like, in the movies, when somebody sees a person and then the movie goes in slow motion and you hear music playing as they walk by. And that's how I used to do when I would see him. He was always well dressed. He had on a suit or a tie or a pullover or something, but he was just gorgeous, tall, pretty white teeth, but I never met him. So I created this whole persona of who I thought he was in my head. And how he sounded, where he lived, how he lived, where he wanted to go to school. I done created this whole little world and life for us. Because, in my head, people say, we were imaginary friends in my head. We went together in my head. But I never met him. And I don't even know if he knew at the time that I existed in the world. But he went on to graduate. I graduated high school, went off to college, graduated, and we came back home. Now, I've been trying to remember how we actually met, but I just can't remember. But we did eventually meet because I told you we lived in the same town, so our paths crossed some kind of way. So remind you, I had created who I thought he was, how he sounded, what he did, where he lived, all of this stuff in my head, right? So when I met him, let me tell you, now he was still gorgeous, at the time, probably even more so the older he got. But he was probably as country as a sofa on the front porch. But literally so totally opposite of what I had created him to be in my head. He was funny. He split verb. He was just so not what was in my head about him all those years ago. But we became the best of friends. He was the coolest guy. And like I said, nothing like I thought. So I had to kind of flip in my head, oh, this is probably even a better version of him that I created for him. Right. But think about how often we do that in life, just in general. You see people, you don't know them, you don't know them or know anything about them, and you just make assumptions based off of how they look or where they live. They're too outgoing or they're really shy, and you just create this whole narrative about a person you don't even know. Like, people used to think that I was mean and stuck up. Like, how could you possibly get that from me? I was shy. I was really shy in college. When I crossed or pledged in college, people would literally say to me, "Oh, you're a really cool person." I'm like, "But what did you think I was? And how did you get to that conclusion of what I thought, of what you thought I was?" Right? So sometimes what we create and imagine a person to be can block us from a blessing that we could receive from that person. Right? I was truly blessed. Unfortunately, my friend passed way, way too soon. But I'm so thankful that I got past of the googly eye and all of that and didn't get upset that he wasn't who I imagined him to be and wanted and tried to put him in this bubble of what I had created. And we had the wonderful friendship for years, But what if I hadn't done that? I would have truly missed out. And a lot of times we miss out, we miss our blessing because it doesn't look how we created it in our heads. Now, in this COVID-19 season we're in, a lot of us are figuring out a new way of seeing things because 2020 has definitely not been how we imagined and created this perfect vision of a year to be. It's been far less than perfect. But what it can do, it can push you to see it a different way, be more creative, and come up with these genius ideas that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. So think about how you've created something in your head, and just because it's not happening how you thought, the why should still be the same. The why you started to work on that business, the why you started to write that book, the why you started to do all of these things should still be the same. You just got to just pivot a little bit and look at it a different way. So don't get caught up on what you created it to look like in your head just because it didn't happen or isn't happening how you thought. Perfect vision. Sometimes we need corrective lenses to get our perfect vision. Yeah. So find a new lens and take a look at that thing that you created that may need a little adjusting, a little more on the right eye, a little less on the left eye, and you get it just quite right. And here you go. Execute. Excellence. We're moving forward. You're accomplishing things and accomplishing goals, right? Make the adjustment, get you some corrective lenses, and see that thing in a different way. You guys, I thank you for listening. And if no one else has told you today that they love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, y'all be great.